March 1945. The Rhine River Valley trembles beneath the weight of war. German combat engineers crouch in the cold pre-dawn darkness beside the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen, their fingers numbed against detonator switches. They have wired the ancient stone structure with enough explosives to collapse a mountain. Above them, the bridge's steel trusses groan under the weight of retreating Wehrmacht columns. The engineers wait for the order, certain of one thing. When American Sherman tanks arrive at the western approach, this bridge will disappear into the river below. It has always been this way. Bridges fall. Nations crumble. The Reich endures. But what these men do not yet know is that their assumptions about American engineering are about to shatter as completely as they expect this bridge to collapse. For 5 years, German military doctrine had taught its officers that American construction was weak, rushed, built by a nation of shopkeepers and assembly line workers who valued speed over substance. The bridges spanning the Mississippi, the Colorado, the Hudson, they were dismissed in Wehrmacht training manuals as utilitarian structures, products of a culture that prized convenience over craftsmanship. German engineers, trained in the rigorous traditions of Prussian precision, believed their explosives could reduce any structure to rubble. They had proved it across Poland, France, and Russia. A well-placed charge, calculated tonnage of TNT, and any bridge became a memory. At Remagen, they pressed the detonators. The explosives roared. Smoke and debris mushroomed upward, and for one brief moment, the German engineers allowed themselves to breathe. But when the dust settled, the Ludendorff Bridge still stood. Damaged, certainly, its western approach cratered, railings twisted, but the main span remained intact, stubbornly defiant above the Rhine's gray waters. American soldiers of the 9th Armored Division, who had expected to spend weeks finding an alternate crossing, stared in disbelief before rushing forward. They crossed, and behind them came thousands more. The German officers who witnessed this failure could not comprehend it. Their calculations had been precise. The demolition charges were sufficient, more than sufficient, yet the bridge had absorbed the blast and refused to die. In the chaos of the retreat, as American forces poured across the Rhine weeks ahead of schedule, German combat engineers began examining other American-built structures their armies had captured earlier in the war. What they discovered unsettled them more than any battlefield defeat. During the occupation of captured American airfields in North Africa and later in France, German technical battalions had dismantled American Bailey bridges, temporary spans the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers erected in a matter of hours. The German expectation was that these prefabricated bridges, assembled from modular steel panels like children's construction toys, would be flimsy, barely capable of supporting infantry, certainly inadequate for armor. Instead, they found bridges that could bear 70 tons, constructed with tolerances that rivaled German permanent installations. The welds were perfect. The load distribution was mathematically elegant. These were not temporary bridges. They were industrial miracles.
One captured German engineering report, filed in February 1945 and later recovered by Allied intelligence, contained a single devastating sentence. The enemy's material superiority extends even to the structures we assumed would be their weakness. The officer who wrote it, Oberst Heinrich Brenner, had overseen bridge demolitions across 3 countries. He had been trained to exploit the inferior construction of enemy infrastructure. But here, facing American engineering, his expertise became obsolete. The symbolism was inescapable. The bridge, that ancient metaphor for connection, for civilization spanning natural barriers, became the physical embodiment of ideological difference. German bridges were monuments, built to last 1,000 years, expressions of state power and permanence. American bridges were solutions, built to move goods, connect markets, serve practical needs. The Germans had assumed this practicality meant weakness. They had confused democratic efficiency with inferiority. At Remagen, that confusion cost them the war's Western Front. American bridges held because they were over-engineered by a society that valued redundancy, that built safety margins into every calculation, that assumed bridges would need to carry more weight than initially planned. German bridges were precisely engineered to exact specifications, elegant in their efficiency, perfect until the moment they faced unexpected stress. The American approach, wasteful by German standards, excessive, lacking aesthetic purity, proved devastatingly effective under the conditions of total war. In prisoner of war camps, captured German engineers would spend months debating what had gone wrong. Some blamed faulty intelligence. Others pointed to sabotage, to German workers who might have diluted the explosives. But the more honest among them recognized a deeper truth. They had underestimated an entire nation's capacity for industrial scale, for building not monuments, but systems, for creating infrastructure designed to survive chaos rather than impose order. The Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen finally collapsed 10 days after its capture, weakened by the initial demolition attempt and the constant weight of American traffic. 28 American engineers died in that collapse, but by then 5 U.S. divisions had crossed the Rhine. By then, the war's outcome was no longer in question. The bridge had done its job, not by standing forever, but by standing long enough.
History records the great battles, the strategic turning points, the moments when armies clash and nations rise or fall. But sometimes the turning point is quieter, more fundamental. Sometimes it is a group of engineers staring at a bridge that should have fallen, realizing that everything they were taught about their enemy's weakness was a lie. That the nation they dismissed as soft, materialistic, obsessed with comfort over glory, had built its highways and bridges and factories with the same ruthless competence it brought to war. That abundance was not decadence, and that a society organized around practical solutions could outperform empires built on dreams of permanence. The bridge at Remagen stands now only in photographs and memory, but its refusal to fall echoes forward through time, a testament to the quiet strength of things built not to impress, but to endure.